How it is, guys and gals? It's your boy Liam 2020, and finally did a while since I've done a breakdown of any movie or TV show. This time we're going to be tackling a film that originally I was thinking of doing a remake of, but I said, nah, too hard. And that is Rango. I figured why not tackle it since I made a reference to it in my playthrough of Uncharted 3, and so to give my overall thought of it. Like, this film has some really funny scenes, but yeah, made myself some mac and cheese for my lunch, and yeah. Okay, basically starts with the chameleon, voiced by Johnny Depp. He's on a tropical island, supposedly acting with fish, Mr. Timms, which the chameleon is actually holding here on the cover. Mannequin torso, dead bug, named Dr. Marks, and a palm tree reversed to as Victor, but then we get our reference to Captain Jack Sparrow from Pirates of the Caribbean when the chameleon says, "I could be the sea captain returning from a mighty voyage." Directly a mechanical arm, and he starts hitting himself. And after all that acting, he's revealed he's actually in a tank, in a glass box disguised as a chocolate island, which falls out of a car after a huge accident. Well, somewhat because like all the cars were swerving, and it falls on the road, smashes. And then the chameleon meets an armadillo named Roadkill, voiced by Alfred Monolina, I think is how you say his name. Who reveals he's looking for the Spear of the West, and in the extended version, the chameleon says he needs water because his teeth are chapped. He's already down to one layer of skin, because after he fell out of the tank, he shedded 2 layers. And he has no water, because the water in the glass he was holding fell out before he was falling out of the car. But then we get some funny montages of... And then we get a really funny scene with the chameleon getting ran over by multiple cars. Well, almost. And then there's a reference to Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, which is another movie Johnny Depp was in, but I haven't seen that. And this scene is just so funny. Until Roadkill points the chameleon towards a town called Dirt, which is way far out in the desert, for some water. So the chameleon starts making his way there, but not without being chased by a hawk. And this scene's actually funny, unlike... Here's the funny thing, right? You know that Tinkerbell had a scene similar to this, and they just completely fucked it. That's not the case here. This is actually funny. The chameleon running to a can, the hawk its head stuck in said can, and still chasing the chameleon after running to a cactus, leaving a bottle in the air, dropping it on Rockeye, who's a toad, disguising himself as a rock. But it ultimately fails, and the hawk snatches Rockeye, because of course it does. So then the chameleon heads into a drainage pipe and meets Beans after he gets washed out. Beans is voiced by Isla Fisher. Then revealed that she has a bad habit of freezing, and she doesn't want to sell her ranch. That means a lot to her, supposedly. That goes explain why she's refusing to sell it. And I don't know if Beans is the chameleon's love interest, but seems like it. And then the fucking mariachi owls who say the chameleon's gonna die. Which, I literally thought that when I first saw this movie. I was like, so the chameleon dies at the end. So then Beans ends up taking the chameleon to Dirt, no problem. And he enters the town and meets Priscilla the Mouse, voiced by Abigail. I'm gonna pull it. Rango 2011. Who's the name of the person who voices Abigail Breslin? As the person who voices Priscilla. So then the chameleon starts wandering around Dirt, even though he doesn't know his Beans briefly, but Then he slips into a bar after mimicking 3 guys and asks the bullfrog Buford for some water. But for some reason, everyone in the bar starts laughing. I didn't memorize all the characters' names in this film. So then Buford gives the chameleon a bottle of cactus juice, which he drinks. And then Spoons asks who he is, and then the chameleon reads a stamp on the bottle, H.O. and Rango, I think this is, and then the chameleon starts rambling on, saying that his name is Rango. And then he tells the story of how he killed all 7 Jenkins brothers with 1 bullet. Which, I'm not going to spoil it. I mean, I will later on, but I'm not going to say it now. And he tells everyone at the bar how he did it. And then we see Beans at the bank trying to figure out what happened to all the water after the bank keeper, Mr. Merrimack, is just kind of all like, Jesus, what the fuck, dude? And then that's when, after he tells the story of how he killed all 7 Jenkins brothers, that's when Bad Bill, voiced by Ray Winstone. He was a Gila monster. And I did memorize some of the names, but I forget the names of the members of Bad Bill's gang. But then they throw Sodbuster out of the fucking bar. It's like, Jesus Christ, dude, Bad Bill's like, you don't want to mess with this guy. I mean, he's not like an Alcazar. I mean, he kind of is like an Alcazar kind of level. So then he challenges the chameleon to a gunfight after he smokes a cigar. The chameleon eats it, belches fire in his face, gets a revolver. They head outside. Before they can even start the damn shootout, the same hawk from before shows up and literally chases the chameleon all over the place. That is until the chameleon knocks over a water tower, which crushes the hawk. It's like, yay. That's smart right there. And that's why. So then they decide to cook the hawk and decide to introduce the chameleon to the mayor, voiced by Ned Beatty. Beatty. How do you even say his name? But anyway, he was also Lotso in Toy Story 3, which came out a year before this movie. So then the mayor ends up showing the chameleon, because basically the mayor is disabled and he's in a wheelchair. That surprisingly can move by itself, like in WALL-E. And the mayor's a turtle, by the way. And then he decides to give the chameleon a sheriff's badge and make him the sheriff. The extended version of the film has a scene where he's talking to Bad Bill after the chameleon walks out. And then the citizens of Dirt actually make the chameleon their new sheriff, which Beans starts to confront. And the chameleon's even trying to even change his clothes, too. Like, he has this orange suit and a hat. Or, no, it's not orange, it's brown, but... Yeah, so then they do their Wednesday routine of the Wednesday water, because it's exactly noon. Which the chameleon obviously just decides to go along with it. So they reach the big-ass faucet, and then there's a wounded bird who's afraid that Rattlesnake Jake is going to show up. But then Sheriff Amos, who was the chameleon before... I mean, the sheriff before the chameleon was killed by Jake, apparently. But they reach the faucet, and the mayor welcomes the chameleon to go first, which he does, but then a bunch of mud falls out. It's like, you don't expect there to be mud falling out. It's like, wow. That's just to show how big of a problem this is. Like, this is the kind of Western film that's really good. And then Beans lets it slip about the bank running dry, so pretty much everyone in Dirt runs the bank before the chameleon appears and analyzes their water problem. And then, plus it drops from 6 days to 5 days, because obviously, as the chameleon was explaining, he drank like 3 cups. And the mayor agrees with the chameleon. And then that's when, and then that night, the chameleon is patrolling the town to make sure nothing's going wrong. And then that's when Balthazar, voiced by Harry Dean Stanton, and his two sons, Ezekiel and Jedediah. Ryan Hurst is Jedediah. Vincent Carcer is Ezekiel. And the chameleon... See, the chameleon thinks they're just prospectors, not actual bank robbers, so he shows them the bank, and they end up stealing the fucking water. So then the chameleon heads to the bank the next day, realizes... Shit. The bank did get robbed. The owls are kind of funny. They say it's the chameleon's fault for getting the water stolen, but then... Once they're there, the chameleon decides he's going to organize a posse, track down the water. So then he hires a posse after running, which end up being Ambrose, who's an owl, voiced by Ian Abercrombie. This was actually his last film appearance before he died in 2012. And the Wounded Bird is in there, voiced by Gil Bermagram, I think. How you say his name? James Ward Burkitt as a horn-toed Waffles. Waffles in the posse. Same with Spoons, who's voiced by Alex Manigon, and then the long-haired cat Elgin. Let's see who he's voiced by. I have the voice cast up here on Wikipedia. If I can find it. Okay. John Cawthron Jr. Yeah, and then Doc, who's voiced by Stephen Root, who's the same guy who voiced Mr. Merrimack, and Gore Verbinski, who directed the film. Sergeant Turley, who's a fucking bird with an arrow going through his eye. I might be missing somebody. But then they start following a pipe underground as they go through the hole. And there's even a funny scene where the chameleon says, "Whatever you do, do not look down." He glances down anyway. That was kind of funny. And then there's even a funny scene where the chameleon's hat catches on fire literally when Bean says it. When they're walking through, they go up, and this is where it really gets western. They go underground, yeah, with a big-ass eye watching them. And then we see how these guys go nuts. Like, there's that scene with Waffles, Elgin, and Sergeant Turley fighting over a flask, but it's empty anyway. And then Mr. Merrimack supposedly drowned. And then they even ride again. Even when they're trained, they ride. And seeing how they can use their weapons. They have a campfire, foreseeing some worse Spirit of the West. And the chameleon reveals that Rattlesnake Jake is actually his brother, which is weird despite... Because Buford even says, he's a snake and you're a lizard. They call the chameleon a lizard for some reason. I don't know why. That night, the chameleon watches Beans... Well, he talks with Beans before going to sleep while everyone else is knocked out. Or after everyone else has dozed off. And they're just talking about the walking cactus. And literally the next day, they see Balthazar in the canyon. And they literally swap clothes. And I think it's the same performance the chameleon was performing on all those inanimate objects we saw at the beginning of the film. But the chameleon puts on Beans' dress. Beans puts on the Wounded Bird's cloth. And I think Waffles is wearing Ambrose's top hat. But, yeah. It's kind of crazy. They do the performance, and may I introduce Madame Lupon's group of traveling lesbians. I don't know, unless the chameleon said something else. I don't know what the chameleon said exactly. The last word was, it's like... But Balthazar even says, but that's illegal in 7 states. And then Sergeant Shirley fucks up his line on purpose, and then the chameleon says, "Get you and your entire family, get your arms up where I can see them." And here's what you don't expect to happen. Balthazar says, "My entire family." Then a whole bunch of fucking moles come out of the ground. Spoons shoots a revolver, and it leads to a wild goose chase with Balthazar and his goons riding on bats. Now that's an epic chase scene. scene with the chameleon game, but then the chameleon gets whisked away, but he manages to catch up until the wagon crashes, realizes the jug's empty. No one believes Balthazar's story of how he found the jug where he claimed it was empty when he found it, so he's arrested, taken back to dirt without the water. So then the chameleon heads to a golf course where the mayor is playing golf with Bad Bill and his three goons, Stump. No, one was named Stump. I forget the other two guys' names. And see, the chameleon even realizes some footprints around Mr. Merrimack's body, which was still wet. And then he notices the same patch of mud on boots that are covered in caked mud. So while they're playing golf, the chameleon's asking the mayor about, like, so you said control the water, control everything. That's rattling around. And the mayor says that he was mayor of dirt for a while, like he said that. Claims it was civilized. And the chameleon says that he's the law. So then the mayor decides, okay, you know what? This sheriff's been playing the hero for so long, he's starting to believe it. Let's summon Rattlesnake Jake here. But even Bad Bill says that he's against it, but then the mayor tells him to do it anyway. The Bird, Beans, and the chameleon are all talking until Priscilla shows up. Priscilla did not go on the trip when they went to get the water, even though before they left, she had 2 guns asking to gut shoot someone. What does she even have against the chameleon? Like, she even wanted to get the chameleon's boots when he supposedly dies. And she even ripped on the chameleon's funny-looking appearance when he first entered the town. But then, the whole town is an angry mob, the chameleon's explaining everything, and finally, Rattlesnake Jake shows up. He's voiced by Bill Nighy, by the way. And he basically claims... Basically what Jake claims is that the chameleon lied about having killed all 7 Jenkins brothers and forces him to tell everyone, I lied about killing all 7 Jenkins brothers, which he technically succeeded, which he does, and then the chameleon basically forces the chameleon to exile, who throws his badge on the ground, his sheriff's badge, as he leaves. They never reveal the chameleon's real name. Because he even says, you're not Rango. Kind of. See, I was in middle school when I first watched this film, and I didn't even get to see the ending because I was up on a trip when my class finished watching it. So a guy who was in my class, he did say something about a snake coming to the town, and him basically exposing the chameleon for saying that, yeah, you're not Rango. And he was right. The chameleon returns to the road where he fell out of the car, and passes out once he crosses the road. Surprisingly, he doesn't get hit by any cars. And then a bunch of bugs carry the chameleon away, and he wakes up in like this flat, expansive land, kind of like at the beginning of Pirates 3, another Johnny Depp film. And then the chameleon meets the Spirit of the West. It's like, ooh, shit. Who he dubs the man with no name, but then the Spirit of the West points out that no man can walk out his own story before he leaves. And then Roadkill shows up. The chameleon sees him and notices the walking cactuses, or walking cacti. It's actually cacti. I kind of had that going for a while. Is the correct plural term for cactus cacti or cactuses? But apparently it's cacti. The chameleon realizes they follow the water, which they follow it to a valve overlooking Las Vegas. And then he notices footprints by the valve. Same footprints that were by Mr. Merrimack's dead body, which in the extended cut of the film, they have a little funeral for him. Forgot to mention that. And then the same caked mud that was on the boots the chameleon saw earlier at the golf course. So he decides, I'm going back to dirt. He gets the rest of Balthazar's men, who is like, your pad's gonna hang for something he didn't do. And it was like a literal fucking sandstorm. Which the mayor's trying to get Beans to sign a contract to sell her ranch, which it means a lot to her. So then literally Jake tries to squeeze the fuck out of her. Squeeze her to death. Oh my god, you bastard. But the chameleon shows up before that can happen. So then Jake and the chameleon are going to go to a standoff. And he only has 1 bullet in his revolver because Jake emptied out all the other bullets. It's like, just 1 bullet. Shoot me in the head, you cunt. Okay, Jake can actually see the C word because it's a kid's film. Or, I mean, I don't know. Is this actually a kid's movie? Because, I mean, even though this is more of like. Even though you probably should not be watching this movie until you're at least 7 or 8. That's just me. So then, the wounded bird tries to snipe Jake, but apparently Jake has super freaking hearing, like Dolores from Encanto, and shoots the bird, but he survives. And then, literally, water just starts shooting up everywhere. And the chameleon... And then the chameleon even has all the moles disguised as a hawk, but then Jake realizes that's not a hawk, that's bats. He shoots all the bats down with his Gatling gun on his rattle, which... Then the chameleon points a revolver. You think he's about to shoot Jake, but then the mayor interferes and says, "You forgetting something?" Because Jake threw beans in the Bad Bill's goons before he had a standoff with the chameleon. And then the chameleon gives the mayor his gun before they're thrown into the bank vault to be drowned. It's like, how the fuck did water even get in there? Because... Okay, here's the thing. I knew the chameleon was going to be thrown into some big water room because... Or like a giant cesspool or something. Because I remember I saw a teaser back when the film was about to come out where had the chameleon was like, "Help, open the door!" And then I even saw it again behind the scenes where Johnny Depp literally said that. Because this film was actually motion captured. So then, the mayor's about to shoot Jake. But here's the twist. The chameleon took the bullet out, and he freeze beans in the bank vault, puts the bullet in his mouth, and Beans accidentally swallows it after she kisses the chameleon. And she sinks underwater, and the chameleon's like, "Okay, panic time." The mayor's like, "Oh yeah, pretty soon no one will believe you even existed." He's about to shoot Jake before he realizes there's no bullets in the gun, which the chameleon uses to destroy the glass, and it causes a huge tidal wave which washes everybody outside. Whatever happened to Bad Bill and his goons? Because they were seen in the tidal wave, but they're not seen after they get washed outside. The chameleon turns the mayor over to Jake, which actually actually reforms, and it's like, one legend to another. And then Jake even says, "What was that you said? Pretty soon no one will believe you even existed." No, this part is just a really twist. It's like, holy fuck, that is just so unexpected. No, Jake literally coils himself around the mayor and slithers off with him. Bro, that is one hectic way to kill off your antagonist. Or, I'm going to upgrade this to the R-rated version of Project I'm working on, where he just takes a shotgun, shoots the guy in the head. And everyone's happy they got their water back. And they start celebrating. There's even an extended scene where the chameleon's about to head up. This is only in the extended version of the movie, but he heads up to a mountain. And, as he's saying his speech, he falls off. He's like, "Okay, let's take that from the top." And yeah, that's why this movie is actually pretty funny. Huge, epic, wild Western film, but not, like, I mean, obviously for, basically for young ones. Again, I would not recommend watching this movie until you're at least 7 or 8, but, well, who cares? You're probably at least 12 years old if you're watching this stuff, because if you're watching my videos, I hope you're at least 12. No younger than that, because I say a lot of stuff that would not be appropriate for kids. Even though... Yeah, but that's why I really like this movie. Thought I could do a remake of it and decided, nah, I'm too stupid. But let me know in the comments what you think about this film. Do you think it's an epic wild western film? How I described it, and I decided to do it in honor of Johnny Depp winning his court case about a week or so ago, but yeah. I had to finish my mac and cheese, but yeah, it has some really funny moments, has a really epic western feel, and I'm probably uploading this alongside that part of my Uncharted 3 walkthrough where I reference Rango in the title, but I mean, I haven't seen Wild Wild West, but I mean, this isn't like the next Wild Wild West, which I think that film had Will Smith in it, but yeah, this is basically the kind of like the pre-teen version of Wild Wild West. Or yeah, that's basically it for Rango. That's my opinion on this film. So please like, sub, and peace.